I once saved the entire Royal Navy at the Battle of Trafalgar. And then I taught William Shakespeare how to write more good.
I think that you mean that you taught him most gooderly.
In a world where common sense is under attack, one rabbi, one friar, and absolutely no supervision dare to ask the questions everyone else is afraid to touch. Faith, culture, history, current events. Nothing is sacred, except maybe the friendship. Prepare yourself for spirited debate, unexpected laughs, and just enough chaos to keep it interesting. This is What the Frock.
Good morning, America. How are you? I am Rabbi Dave, and I have been forced by circumstances to consider resigning my position because, as it turns out, I am, in fact, not officially the King of Sweden, although I think I still am.
Good morning, America. I am Friar Rod, and now I am really curious as to why. Why did this change, Dave?
So for those of you that may have been hiding under a rock this week, and I don't know who you are, but you may have noticed, or you may not have noticed, because it took a while for the media, and I'm not convinced American media has picked up on this story at all.
Mm-hmm.
You got to go to the British tabloids to get this story. The sitting professor at Cambridge University, a fellow by the name of Jason Arday, who was billed as the youngest black professor in the history of Cambridge University, which stretches back, what, 800 years, 1,000 years? I don't know.
That's a long time.
Cambridge is one of those. There's Oxford, there's Cambridge. What else? That's pretty much it, right? King's College.
I think there's another one, yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? But it's a very old institution of learning in merry old England. And they were proud to have, sitting as one of the chair of their sociology department, a very young, in his early 30s, black man by the name of Jason Arday, who had what the British would call CV, curriculum vitae. We would call that a resume. That made this guy sound like he was, well, the King of Sweden. What highlights, and I'm doing this off the top of my head here, folks. It would be easy to call up a story, but you can do that yourself. This guy, according to his CV, was born autistic, nonverbal until he was 11 years old, couldn't read until he was 18. You with me here?
Okay.
Can't read, can't talk, can't do any of this thing. Goes on to get his, doctorates and all that. And by the time he's 30, he is running, 35 marathons in 30 days or something like that? 9 of which were on a broken leg. He apparently ran some ridiculous distance, 600 miles in a few hours or a couple of days or something. Wrote books, of course. Managed to accomplish things that make ordinary people seem very ordinary. And of course, because he's black, he had to overcome all kinds of systemic racism in England to become the professor at the University of Glasgow, which last time I checked was in Scotland, where he sat there as a professor for just under a year before he was offered the chair of the sociology department at Cambridge. Sociology, by the way, meaning black studies. Okay. So off he went to Cambridge, where he was feted as, you're the best ever. The dean that hired him, or whatever she is, called him, quote, the greatest ever. We've never had a professor at Cambridge University, 800 years. We've never had anybody better than you. Well, things did not go well. as you can imagine, when a story is that fantastical, and I'm just scratching the surface, apparently he played for the under-18 team for, I don't even remember who. Maybe he's got a cousin down in wherever it was, where everybody's cousin. What was it we were playing? Paraguay? No, it was Croatia. Apparently he has a cousin in Croatia because he was playing for the under-18s for Manchester United or somebody. He was that good.
Okay.
Sounds
like he's doing it all.
He was almost a professional snooker player. What is that, I hear you cry? I have no fucking idea. It's a version of pool. Here in America, we play 8-ball, which is, don't hit the 8-ball in the pocket until it's the last ball. It's the only game of pool I know. But apparently snooker is a British version of this whole thing. Don't send me emails going, Dave, snooker's a great game. I don't care.
It sounds like a candy bar.
It kind of does. So he was so good at this game that he almost turned pro. If not for his education goals, he would have, he could have done that.
Well, he probably got scholarships. Otherwise, I would have said he was going to have some college debt from all of that he was planning to do. So he needed some source of income, right?
He's not going to have college debt.
No. It's a free ride for him.
Yeah. So after he becomes this chair of the sociology department at Cambridge University, where he is the best ever in 800 years, nobody as good as this guy. Einstein, Newton, this guy. People started noticing things. The students he was overseeing were like, what do I, they apparently they went to him for guidance about how to do their dissertations and stuff. And he basically said, you're doing great. Keep going. You don't need my supervision.
Okay.
And this happened just once. This happened multiple times. One of the students went to the management of the university and said, hey, this guy's not really managing me. And I don't feel like I'm getting,
what I'm paying for
at an 800-year-old university that's supposed to be, top tier. So the university said, well, we'll talk to him. We'll pull him aside. We'll have some coffee and we'll say, look, maybe you don't have a lot of experience managing students. And so, we'll help him through that and everything will be fine, right? Oh, God, no, that's not what they did. What they did was, why are you racist against our black professor? I'm not kidding. Somehow or another professor got involved with all this at Cambridge University, who then started asking questions. Have you guys actually read this CV that you have for this guy? Because if this was a Hollywood movie, nobody would believe it.
Mm-hmm.
It's that fantastical. And so the university said, well, maybe we should go back and read this again and verify some of these claims, right? No, they said, why are you being a racist? And they sanctioned him for asking these questions. Again, not making this up. You can look it up. You can look it up. It's on the internet. Then a newspaper reporter somehow, quote unquote, got wind of this. Pretty sure I know how that happened. The newspaper reporter starts asking questions. Now the press is involved, which in England, a little bit different than it is here. When you get the press involved in England with things,
they actually dig into things.
Yeah, it gets serious at that point. And an 800-year-old university likes to protect its image, particularly in the newspapers and the media. And so they said, at that point, when the reporter started asking questions, they said, I guess maybe to protect the image and the reputation of this 800-year-old university, maybe we should look into this. No. They called Scotland Yard and accused the reporter of racism and had him investigated for racial bias.
Because you could do that in England.
Yes.
Scotland.
Crime. It's a crime to be racially biased in England. And what is racial bias if it's not asking legitimate questions about somebody's CV?
We'd probably be arrested.
We would be multiple times, which is why I'm proud to say, I came back to the United States yesterday from Canada. And the man said, "Do you have anything to declare?" And I said, "Not since July 4th of 1776. And he laughed. So long, incredibly amusing, and yet disturbing story short. Jason Arday, the youngest black professor at Cambridge University, has been forced to resign. Because as it turns out, once there's a little blood in the water, sharks show up. And the rest of the British media came in with, wait a minute, why are you harassing one of ours for, racial bias when all he's doing is asking questions? So now we're asking questions. Why are you doing this kind of questions?
Why are you defending him?
Right. And it turned into, sorry, I'm trying to turn my fan up. It turned into a metaphorical bloodbath. And the University of Cambridge didn't know what to do. So, of course, they accused everybody now of racism. Why are you attacking our black professor who has overcome so much in his life? Look at his CV. This man is incredible.
He parted the Red Sea.
From what I hear, he was with Nelson at the Battle of Trafalgar. It's gotten to the point where that has become the memes in England right now because it's so absurd. His life story, as published, is so absurd. So after it became apparent, after about a week, that Cambridge had no metaphorical leg to stand on anymore, that your fake accusations of racism did not hold any water, this guy decides to resign because otherwise they were going to have to fire him. Right? And you can't actually fire, from what I understand, you can't actually fire a sitting tenured chair of your sociology department. From what I understand, you can't actually do that.
I don't know about Cambridge, but from my experience working at a university, it was a serious uphill road that you had to take. And there had to have been some kind of a legal malfeasance or something.
Right. King Chuck would have had to come out and accuse him of treason, and they could throw him in the Tower of London and lop his head off. But short of that, they weren't going to be able to get rid of him. So somebody pulled him aside and said, dude, no, you need to quit. So he did. He sent out a letter, a 600-word letter. 600 words. When the police chief in Seattle resigned, it was one sentence. I resign my position effective today.
Well, you expect that from a university professor, Dave. I mean, having worked there, just saying.
What you don't expect is that for people to immediately, because of this guy's CV and because of his, they immediately took the resignation letter, went to their AI detectors, and discovered that the resignation letter was 99% AI, which did not help the cause at all.
No.
Now he's gone. And by this time next week...
But is he, though?
I bet you by this time next week, nobody even remembers who Jason Arday is. You could probably tell a Jason Arday joke in a week and nobody will
be on The View.
Yes. Anyone else. But again, nobody's watching that either. So,
no.
But here's the problem.
He'll be the police chief up there up in Seattle.
Wouldn't surprise me. He was once the police chief in a city in London where he personally stopped a rebellion against King Louis or King George VIII or whatever. And the problem, of course, is that now this whole DEI hiring in education has just been absolutely exposed. And it's not stopping with him.
Yeah.
There are people, I sent Rod this the other day. There's a list of like 25 of these kinds of professors at various universities in England. And believe me, the media over there now is digging into these people who are studying the most ridiculous things you've ever seen in your life. And it's not going to end there. It has been totally exposed, this whole DEI hiring practice. And moreover, it leaves a couple of questions. Number one, what happens if you are a legitimate black student at Cambridge University with aspirations of going places in your life, and you are working hard, and you're keeping your nose to the grindstone, and your CV consists of, I'm studying hard, I worked at McDonald's, I'm doing these kinds of things. You know, a normal person's CV where you didn't actually part the Red Sea and walk on water and turn water into wine. Do you now get the job that you're going for? And if you do, are people saying, well, is this another Jason Ardet?
That's going to be a big question.
Or does the pendulum swing the other way and say, we can't hire this guy because then people will think the only reason we hired him is because they're, black.
But they're still going to have quotas to make, I would imagine, over there. So they're still going to have some. But, I mean, they obviously need to do a better job of proofing and vetting these people. And so rather than just promoting people blindly, actually do a background check. I mean, it's not that hard.
Yeah, I mean, you could figure out that this guy's CV said, yeah, I was featured on a TV program that followed autistic children for 15 years or something.
Yeah.
And it followed their stories. Problem is that the program aired 15 years before he was born. There was no way he was ever on it. That's the kind of thing that anybody checking a CV should have gone, oh. If Rod had said saying some TV,
I could have checked it.
Yes, could have. Easily. So, the other question I have, and this goes to my love of baseball. Do you know what the problem with the steroid era in baseball was?
There's just one problem with it?
Well, there's a lot of problems with it, but, the whole thing goes to, well, they were cheating. Yes, they were. But, ... we, the fans, loved that. In the words of the great Charlie Harper, baseball was better when some steroid-inflamed lunatic was hitting 80 home runs a season than it is now where Dave Baseball Bowman, kind of look at baseball this season and go, meh.
Yeah.
It's just not exciting anymore. It's just not interesting. Launch angles and strikeouts. That's it. That's all it is. Home runs and strikeouts. I'm not saying I don't love baseball. What I'm saying is it's not as exciting as it was when there were steroids involved.
You know what it is, Dave? You've been tainted by cricket.
There is a lot of that. I had a choice last night between watching the Dodger game or watching the Hamilton Tiger Cats and BC Lions or the Caribbean Premier League with St. Kitts and Nevis against Trinidad. So which do you think I watched?
TKR, man.
TKR, man. TKR. And I wasn't even mad when the game got rained out. Did you know in cricket they have a rule that says, okay, the game's getting rained out, and if you're in the chase, they say, okay, well, this is how many runs you have scored here's your run rate.
Yeah.
And so here's what we project you would get if you went the whole distance. And that's how they won. It's like, oh, well, they only needed 18 runs in the 15th over. So like, yeah, you're going to win. And everybody was fine with this. That's what I love about the Caribbean, man. Everybody was like, cool. The problem with steroids wasn't that they were cheating. I once upon a time interviewed one of the, let's just call him the prime person involved with all that. I'm not dropping any names and I'm not giving you any hints. Okay. But if I said this guy's name, you would know what Josie Consiglio I would be talking about. Okay? I interviewed him, and that was one of the questions I asked him. I said, look, why'd you do it? And the answer was because I love the game so much and I wanted to stay in it, which resonated with me. It really did. I can appreciate that.
It prolonged his career.
It prolonged his career. And as far as I know, he's still playing semi-pro today. The interesting thing, though, and this is what I started thinking about later on, and this is the problem with what Jason Arday has done, and this is what DEI does. What did Cambridge University miss out on because they hired this guy? They hired a guy that was completely incompetent. Mm-hmm. They could have hired an actual sociology doctorate holder who could actually teach students, but they didn't.
So if you were one of his students going through there underneath him, why not sue Cambridge?
I would.
Yeah.
What did you miss out on? What did these students not learn? What did these, same as baseball? Okay, so these steroid people stayed in the game for 5-10 years longer than they should have. Who did we not get to see because there was no room for them in the major leagues because of these guys? Mm-hmm. How do you know that there wasn't the next Babe Ruth down there or the next Nolan Ryan? And we'll never know because we never got to see them because it interfered with us. And this is what this DEI hire did. We don't know who he could have been teaching and yet now isn't. And don't kid yourself, it's not just the sociology department. They have a medical department too. Who would you rather have teaching your medical students? An actual medical teacher or a DEI hire that doesn't have it?
Well, and so there's multiple problems with that because it's not only the DEI hire, the fact that they're hiring people that are not qualified, which means they didn't vet this guy really well at all. It's their default mantra of saying racism as a result. And at some point in time, they looked at the CV and they're like, holy crap, well, we've started this path of saying racism. If they really look into this, they were hoping it was going to die down and then they would probably quietly shuffle this guy out. But it just blew up in their face.
See, I'm not even convinced that they thought that. I'm not even convinced that they ever thought that they were wrong. I'm not convinced of that. It would be easy to say that. You and I would look at this and go, well, we got caught. Yeah. Oh, no. I'm not convinced that they ever thought that way. I don't think they still think that way. I think they still believe that the only reason is racism. And even Arday is out there claiming that he was forced out because of racism, even though...
Oh, of course he would.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. But he's out now because he resigned. So how'd you like to be the next guy or gal that gets hired for that position? I don't think I want that. No. Because it's not going to be easy. Welcome back. I'm Dave.
I'm Rod.
So, my wife, whom I love dearly, yesterday was our 17th wedding anniversary. We went to Victoria, Canada. We had a great time.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'd like to take congratulations. I don't feel like I really did all the work for this. I think she had a much more, she had much less to work with than I did. Let's put it that way. So. But my wife does have her foibles, one of which is for some reason, and I can't figure out why, she keeps watching Candace Owens videos on TikTok.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dave.
I'm baffled by this. Why do people listen to Candace Owens? I will grant you she is easy on the eyes. No question there. Much like Britney Spears, if you turn it off, the sound off, I could watch it, no problem. But beyond that, if she opens her mouth, and you hear it, it's like, wow. Put aside all the mispronunciations of words, which are hysterical. And people have made a lot of hay with that on the interwebs about let's make a 12-minute video of all the mispronunciations of words this week of Candace Owens. But I don't understand why normally intelligent people listen to her unless it's just for entertainment. If you were to text me, I listen to her because she makes me laugh because she's so insane.
Yeah,
I can accept that. That's fine. But beyond that, I don't understand. And this is the thing. Cammie watches this and then always inevitably turns to me and says, I don't understand why people are watching this. And I will look at her and say, I don't understand why you're watching this. There's a skip button on TikTok, right?
You're paying her every time you watch this. Stop it.
Stop it. And I'm not saying that she's Alex Jones, but she's Alex Jones. This whole mindset of, well, I'm just asking questions, because that's what she does. That's her shtick. We're just seeking the truth. Well, let's do some of that right now, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain to me why Friar Rod was getting coffee at 6:43 p.m. last night? Doesn't that seem like a really odd thing, an odd coincidence, that at the same time he was doing that, Islamic terrorists were launching a bomb? Who was he trying to distract? Answer, damn it.
Yeah. It's easy to question.
It's
armchair quarterbacking.
And then to say, we're going to release this real soon. I have the evidence.
Right.
And then never provide it. Never. Just keep promising we're going to do this. Pretty soon, the frogs are all going to turn gay pretty soon.
Yeah.
Because it's going to happen, right? And then when it doesn't happen, what do you claim? It was my questioning and my bringing this to the attention of everyone that caused them to back off.
Mm-hmm.
And not do what I predicted they were going to do because, there you go. I finally said to my wife, you believe in this Bible stuff? What does the Bible tell you about how to, not even what's going to happen to them,
Mm-hmm.
not how do you tell if someone is a false prophet? Do you remember this? It's in there. It's actually in there, because what they promise to come true never comes true.
They have to be right 100%.
And if they're not,
They're a false prophet.
They're a false prophet. Now, I'm pretty sure that they're not going to allow us to stone her because, Candace, because probably against the law these days. But I guess we could send her to Cambridge, where she would fit in quite well from what I see. Although, I don't know. It's the same thing. It's the same coin, the different side, right? Which brings us, of course, to the biggest conspiracy theory of the universe.
Which is?
Well, I plead the fifth.
Oh, okay.
On the advice.
We're going there.
Yeah, I thought long and hard about this because I went back and looked at what we had to say. And the one thing that I kept saying over and over and over again during COVID was it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
If what we're being told about COVID is true, we are doing everything wrong. Now, for what it's worth, I never believed that COVID was, instantaneous death if you got it. I am absolutely convinced that I had it in December of 2019. The worst. At the time, I thought it was a cold. And at the time, I said it's the worst cold I've ever had. Couldn't breathe, hacking and
Mm-hmm.
There were 2 times when I came millimeters from saying to Campbell, we got to go to the ER because I can't breathe. 2 times. And both times I got up and got in the shower, got steam going, and managed to survive it. So I'm convinced that I had it. But then my doctor says to me, no, you couldn't have had it because it wasn't here until January. Which, of course, is, that's the most Jason Arday answer ever, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I also noted
sources say that it wasn't here until January.
Right. There you go.
What sources?
Who was the source? He asked. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. He pleaded the 5th because the science, right?
Yeah.
I also noted that I did go back, and I was at the time, Rod, skeptical. I tended to believe that it was in fact natural, possibly accelerated by a lab, but we had a long discussion about the pangolins, and I couldn't tell listening to me 5-6 years ago whether I was being sarcastic or not. So I have to assume that I was not being, because I don't really remember. I'll take that hit. But I did say over and over again for nearly 3 years, if this is what we're being told it is, we are doing everything wrong. So,
and look, the fact that we were forced to mask up, right? But then they never told us how to correctly dispose of these hazardous masks once you've worn them. How many times did you see masks on the ground pulling into a grocery store? Right? I mean, yeah. So it's these, if it was that serious, then these should have been biohazard devices that we should have disposed of properly.
If it was really that serious, we shouldn't have been out of our houses.
Yeah. If it was really that serious, we shouldn't have had plexiglass between you and the checker at the grocery store.
We shouldn't have been shutting down non-essential businesses in favor of Walmart. You can't go to your local store, but you can go to the big box store where everybody is and wander around. And then we got to the old vaccine thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure where I stand on this anymore. Because having taken one of the vaccines, the Moderna, as I recall.
I had that.
The one that makes you go like you're on fire the next day or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm. The second one was worse than the first.
Never got the second one.
Yeah.
Because I started having second thoughts about things. And given the data that we have now, I'm happy that I didn't take it. I'm very happy that we never vaccinated Ben because he wasn't at risk. Even though they kept saying, well, young people aren't at risk, but you should get them vaccinated anyway. Again, makes no sense.
I regret getting our kids vaccinated, but at the time, we had an immunocompromised person at home, and they were telling us this is to stop the spread, right?
Which again, I'm not trying to dwell on this point 6 years after the fact, but they were, lying to us.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with all this is that they knew that they were lying to us. The data is there. They knew this. And yet we didn't just allow, we almost welcomed the companies that were making this vaccine. You want to know why the news doesn't cover these stories? Just watch the news sometimes and watch the commercials about who's bringing you proudly the news. That's why they're not talking about it.
It's the pharmaceuticals, and then it's the lawyers.
Yeah. So of course not. So now we've got this pardon for everything he did from 2014 to 2025.
Yeah.
He goes to Congress. He's proud of the science. He believes in the science. That's what we're told.
He is the science.
He is the science. And instead of answering a simple question, what color is the carpet? On the advice of the attorney, I plead the Fifth Amendment, which shouldn't apply because you already have a pardon, but because of states' rats people like Uthmeyer down in Florida, who apparently think that they can I have no idea. The discussion is James Sessions and they're going to charge, or not Sessions, Paul, that they're going to charge him with something. I don't know what they're going to charge him with. And even if they did, you're not going to win. So what's the point? Why aren't you going after the pharmaceutical companies who have zero liability for what they've caused at all? And yet you passed a law saying, yeah, that's fine.
There was some talking head that I saw that suggested that one of the other countries, maybe one in South America, should open up a court case and an investigation into all of this because Fauci was related to the cause of all of that, and then put him up for trial and extradite him to that country.
Be an interesting idea. Yeah. Not sure I could legally support that, but the bottom line is, here was an opportunity for Fauci, who has, if you think COVID is where he came onto the public stage as a controversial figure, you weren't paying attention. COVID was his at least second foray into being a government stooge idiot. Mm-hmm. He was deeply involved in the AIDS crisis back in the 80s. He was hated by the liberal left because of his inaction or whatever on the AIDS crisis. Now he's the darling of the left because he convinced conservatives to lock down the country, blah, 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 blah. And yet he stands up there. He is the science. If he really, truly, honestly, actually believed the sentences that were coming out of his mouth for those 4 years, wouldn't you want to brag about that?
Wouldn't you want to say,
yeah. Wouldn't you want to say, well, look, this is the data that I had. This is the way that I interpreted it. This was my team. We looked at it. Why would you write in a diary on a government computer? Hello, Bill Maher. It's a government computer that he was writing this crap on. It wasn't his private diary.
Yeah.
And brag about your publicity and your growing fame, and then go in front of Congress and not be willing to talk about it. Because I guarantee you, if he sat down on The View, which he will, I'm sure, it will come spilling out of his mouth about how great he is, how wonderful he is, and how much he cares. But he doesn't really believe it. So this is the key. He doesn't really believe what he's saying and what he said. You know how you know? Because when the rubber met the road and he had the opportunity to embarrass Congress by saying, I'm the expert and you're not.
Yeah.
What did he do?
I plead the
fifth. And that tells you right there everything you need to know about Dr., quote unquote, Tony Fauci. Welcome back. I'm Dave.
I'm Rob.
So in this concept of not really believing what you say, because like Jason Arday and Tony Fauci and Candace Owens, you know that they're lying because when the time comes to actually put it into practice, to actually be a professor, to actually provide the evidence that you say you're going to provide, to actually answer the science, to provide the science that you say you're going to put, they don't do it. Here in the state of Washington, which, look, I love Washington. California was great in the physical sense, and in the political sense, it's a mess, but the same thing here. I mean, literally, I can go from the top of Mount Rainier, 14,000 feet, to the Puget Sound in an hour. I can snow ski and water ski on the same day. I can hike mountains, or I can walk on a beach, or I could go to Chinatown in Seattle, or I can, or I could drive 2 hours east to a little place called Wenatchee, which I like to mispronounce on purpose, Wenatchee, but it's Wenatchee. And Ron, I'm telling you, if we drove over there, got out of the car, and I had you blindfolded getting there, you would swear you were in the Central Valley.
Really?
It's that climate, it's that farmland, it's that it is the Central Valley of California. That's simple. I love this place. However, we have a political problem. And that political problem is that we have governors and governments that are very Jason Arday-esque. They say they believe things. So here in Washington, we have something called the Climate Commitment Act, an actual law that we have passed. This law says that Washington State is going to solve climate change because climate change is what's causing the fires in eastern Washington right now.
Not the arsonist that started it.
Former Governor Jay Inslee sent out an X saying this fire was caused by climate change. And literally 10 minutes later, Washington State Patrol issued a saying, yeah, we've arrested this guy for starting the fire. And instead of going, delete tweet, oops, maybe nobody will notice, our former ex-governor instead followed the tweet up going by, well, climate change made it worse.
Of course.
He passed this CCA, which of course adds over $1.50 per gallon in taxes. Because tax money is how you solve climate change. Did you know this? Me paying $5 a gallon. Yeah. Me paying $5 a gallon instead of $3.50 a gallon is what solves climate change. And we believe, and when I say we, I mean the royal we, King Bob right now and his minions there in Olympia. And so we passed other laws saying that, well, our ferries, and Washington State has a huge ferry fleet because we have the Puget Sound and you got to be able to get back across it. And all of these ferries, many of these ferries now, are what we call dual drive diesel hybrids. So they have diesel engines that drive electric turbines, which drive the thing. Well, that diesel is bad, you see.
Oh, yeah.
So we got to get rid of that. And we got to go to all electric ferries.
Well, that ought to work.
Apparently we will plug in Eagle Harbor over on Bainbridge Island every night. And by the way, because we believe in climate change, and we're not going to build any more power plants because those are bad for the environment.
Okay.
But we're going to build all electric ferries.
Yeah, that total logical sense, does it not? When you think about it, they're gonna move everything to electricity, and then they're gonna get rid of all of your stable generation.
For more than 100 years, the Seattle ferries have been built here in Seattle over on Lake Washington. We have several shipyards that build these things. And we said, you know what? We are committed to the great workers' paradise. So we will have minimum wages that are union scale for these people. And we will make sure that you have to have certain quotas for who you hire. You have to. Seattle's 2% African American? You better have 10% of your workforce. It's an example. I don't know the actual numbers.
Yeah. They wouldn't do 2% because, they just that doesn't make the most logical sense if you're trying to represent what the community is.
Well, it's kind of like the police chief over there. When they fired the police chief who was black, the black community starts complaining. You've got to have more blacks in leadership. Why are you getting rid of the blacks? And so someone put up a picture of the 11 senior commanders in the Seattle Police Department, 6 of whom are black. Whoops.
Yeah.
So then we said, you can't pollute the air. So you've got to change how you build these ships to a more expensive process so that you don't pollute the air. And then we said, well, You can only build them this way. And we essentially made it very, 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 very expensive to build boats here.
Mm-hmm.
And then we said, but we need 4 new ferries. And they put them out to bid. And the shipbuilders in Washington said, what's your budget? And we said, X millions of dollars. And our shipbuilders went, and did not submit bids.
Of course.
So the 4 new ferries for the state of Washington, which is committed to Climate Commitment Act, changing everything, making sure that not only do we not damage the environment, but that we always pay workers what we say they're worth.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, we have the highest minimum wage city in the world. And the commitment to diversity and all of this stuff, right? When it came time to say, well, we're going to have to pay more because we have to do all these things, we said, let's build these 4 ferries in Florida.
Yeah. Because they'll do it cheaper there.
Much cheaper there.
Oh, yeah.
Which
Because they
tells
don't have that government regulations and overhead that the city just... Yeah.
Exactly. And so this is what irritates me more than anything. It's not that it's just cheaper in Florida. If it was just cheaper in Florida, you'd go, well, then that makes sense. That's a good use of public dollars.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is the policy behind it that made it cheaper in Florida means that we, corporately, the state of Washington, have these belief systems that we don't really believe.
Yeah.
Because if we really believed them, what would we be doing?
You'd be building them there. And you would have adjusted your budget accordingly.
If Tony Fauci really believed the bullshit that was spouting from his mouth, what would he be doing?
Yeah.
If Candace Owens really honestly believed the shit she was saying, she says, what would she be doing? And if Cambridge University, for the last 800 years, actually believed in educating people, what would they be doing? This is the problem, folks. This is the steroid problem of all this politics. If you don't really believe it, then why are you inflicting it on everybody else?
Mm-hmm.
The fact is, Governor Bob, you don't actually believe the crap that's coming out of your mouth. If you did, we wouldn't be paying for 4 Florida-built ferries. You don't really believe it, and the proof is in how you behave. The proof is what you said did not come true. You are, in fact, false prophet. Welcome back. I'm Rabbi Dave.
I am Friar Rod.
So I mentioned that we went to Canada.
Yeah. How was it?
It's nice. Victoria is a very British city.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's British Columbia. I mean, it's very Victorian.
What side of the street they drive on?
Oh, they drive on the correct side, so that's fine.
Okay.
But everything else, they drive. Like we went to afternoon tea,
Mm-hmm.
which I was pleasantly surprised by. I have always avoided going to afternoon teas or high teas because British food sucks. It just does. I was pleasantly surprised. There was only one thing on the thing that I'm not eating that. You with me there?
I am.
So it wasn't, it was expensive. It was like $145 for 2 people to have 2 pots of tea and this finger foods that they serve. Okay?
That's expensive.
It is, except that it's Canadian.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So it's only 71% of that, basically.
Are you paying American dollars? Are they doing the?
It just converts it. I use my credit card, so it converts it.
Okay.
And boom, off you go. Which was nice because, well, anyway, things get converted. So we had that, and then my wife said, let's stay at a less expensive hotel. It's only 1.5 miles from downtown on the hottest day of the year. And that 1.5 miles,
I know it's coming.
As you fly. And my wife says, there's a trestle here in Victoria that she wants to walk across. Okay, great. But to get to said trestle, we must detour, which is a French word that they use a lot up there. I know because I saw it everywhere I went. Detour is this way. Detour is that way. So this 1.5 mile walk, oh my God. By the time we get done with that, 2 hours later, my feet are killing me. We stumble into the hotel and it's like, well, we did walk across the trestle. Yay. It was not as exciting as you might think it would be. I even think Cammie was a little disappointed by it because it wasn't really a trestle. It was just a bridge made out of wood. So we get to the hotel and I'm like, and that was it. I was done. And basically it was, so the next morning when we're getting ready to leave, get up, we're going to go back to, I'm like, we're taking a cab. There's no way I'm walking back. Not happening. So the hotel gal calls, the concierge calls a cab for us. Get in the cab. Cab driver is clearly Southeast Asian.
Okay.
Singh is his name.
Mm-hmm.
And so he and I get to talking. It turns out he's an MI New York fan, which for those of you who don't follow cricket is in Major League Cricket, MI New York is the Mumbai Indians of New York.
Yeah.
And we hate them. I am a Seattle Orcas fan, and so just giving a little crap about that. And I texted Rob. I texted Rod a picture of him, and I said, my cab driver, my cabbie is a MI New York fan. So it's okay. I tipped him anyway.
Yeah, that's funny.
So we get downtown, go to pay for the cab, $17.83. With that includes the tip, by the way.
Right.
That's how short of a trip this was.
Okay.
So, and it turns out that's Canadian. So when I'm looking at the exchange later, it's like $12 for this cab ride. I'm like, why in the hell did we walk? Well, we could have taken a cab to the hotel, walked back down to the trestle 100 yards away and gone, there it is. We could have done that, but we didn't.
Yeah.
So the cool thing was, to me, is always the trip across the Puget Sound because we take the Blackball Ferry, the MV Coho, and you know me, man. I like going to sea, and the Straits of Juan de Fuca are a very special place to me because that's where basically we're crossing where we dove. Is the dive point, the first point coming in. So it's waters that I'm pretty familiar with, and just getting to go to sea, even for 3 hours, is that's kind of nice, and I like that ride. What I really like about that ride is watching the people who are queasy because of the 1 and 2 degree rolls that we're taking, you know.
That's
It's like, yeah, don't worry about
nothing.
it. Going over, we hit a fog bank, and I'm standing out on the bow of the thing, and we're coming to the fog bank, and they got to clear the bow because they got to station the fog watch. Yeah. And I told the guy, I said, look, I'm a qualified lookout. I can do this. He starts laughing. He's like, no, you can't because you don't work.
The liability. Yeah.
Right.
No, he said he was qualified.
So fine, I guess I'll go back inside and drink coffee, and there you go. So then I came back to the news that KNBR, the San Francisco radio station, is in the shits with the Giants right now.
Really?
Apparently they're mad. KNBR and the Giants are mad at each other big time.
Huh.
If you're not from the Bay Area, you won't understand this, but KNBR is the radio voice of the San Francisco Giants.
It is, yeah.
And they are mad at each other because apparently the on-air hosts are being critical of the fact that the Giants suck this year.
Mm-hmm.
And they have fired Greg Papa.
Really?
KNBR fired Greg Papa. And was it Krukow? Who's the other guy? Can't remember his name now. Resigned. Said he's stepping out. Now he says health because, you know, he is,
of course,
cancer, but there's a lot of mess of that. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. But radio in and of itself is becoming a dangerous business to be in. I was having a conversation with my one of my in-laws, and her daughter, I guess, works for a radio station in Chicago. Before I could catch myself, I'm saying, you might want to update that resume, because I'm sending her all these messages from people. Look, here's another story about radio shutting down and radio station in Los Angeles going all AI.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing.
So it's a mess, but we'll see what happens over the next few years as things change.
Maybe you'll find some independent stations where they promise not to go AI, and these are human. It's all human.
We use a lot of AI here, folks, but I'm real, and so is Rod, and we will continue to be. And I think this is the future of the talk format, is the podcast / live stream, because this is where it's going to be at. That said, our music is AI generated, so
it augments, right? It doesn't. I mean, we wouldn't be able to do the music at all if we had to pay humans to do it. We just don't
have the time or the budget.
No.
And
so that's what we use AI for. And we're not making money off of it. That's another thing too, right?
That's the important critical event here, is we're not making money. So all you people listening up in Onaway, Michigan right now, you could click that sign that says support the show. And I don't know who you are. Don't know what you're doing up there, but we're glad you're with us, because apparently we're a hit in Onaway, Michigan. I have no idea why, but at least they're not Vietnamese bots.
I got some hate mail.
Yeah, that's true too. And on that note, I'm Rabbi Dave.
I'm Friar Rod.
And this has been a We Believe in What We're Doing episode of
What the Frock?
So grab your frog and come aboard. This nonsense can't be ignored. We joke, we gripe, we spin, we sing, while Rome burns on, we'll do our thing. What the frock is going on here? We may not know, but still we cheer. Raise your voice, your glass, your brow, because the frock is happening now.